This is Gold Rush, Season 16, Episode 22, The Gold Ceiling. In this part of Season 16, the pressure is no longer small or far away. The goal is clear, the numbers are heavy, and the ground is starting to answer back. Parker and Tony are both trying to break through the 10,000-ounce barrier, while Rick is fighting a different race before his pay dirt runs out. There are episodes built on big discoveries, and there are episodes built on pressure. This one is about pressure. Not loud pressure. Not the kind that arrives all at once. This is the slow, steady kind that settles over a mine and stays there all day. It sits in the wash plant. It sits in the fuel burn. It sits in every truckload of dirt. And above all, it sits in the count. For Parker and Tony, one number now hangs over everything they do: 10,000 ounces. It is not just a target on paper anymore. It is a line both men can almost touch. For Rick, the problem is more immediate. He does not have the comfort of chasing a season milestone from solid ground. He is trying to get the last chance cut open before Vegas Valley stops giving him enough dirt to stay moving. So this episode begins with two battles at once. One is for a major gold mark, the other is for survival, and both of them depend on time. By now in the season, every crew knows what kind of ground they are standing on and what kind of shape their operation is in. There are no easy illusions left. Parker's camp is built around production. The goal is simple: keep the plant running, keep the dirt coming, and keep the gold count climbing. But simple is never the same as easy. When a crew gets close to a major mark, the pressure changes. Every clean-out matters a little more. Every lost hour feels a little worse. A small delay starts to feel larger than it is. That is the position Parker is in. He is close enough to believe the barrier can fall, but not close enough to relax. Tony is in a similar race, but it does not feel the same. His road is rougher. His style is harder. His operation always seems to carry the weight of another problem just around the corner. Still, the target in front of him is the same. 10,000 ounces is not only a measure of success, it is also a statement. It says the season has produced at a level that can still command respect. It says the work, the repairs, the arguments with the ground, and the long hours in the mud all led somewhere real. That is why Tony keeps pushing. Not because the barrier makes the work easier, but because it gives the work shape. Then there is Rick. His problem is not a season total hanging in the distance. His problem is what happens if the dirt he is feeding the plant starts to disappear before the next cut is ready. Vegas Valley has carried him, but that carry cannot last forever. Ground runs thin, pay changes, the easy path closes. So for Rick, the last chance cut is more than a next move. It is the bridge to whatever comes after. If he cannot get it open in time, the cost is not only lower gold, the cost is lost momentum. Machines sitting still, men waiting. A crew forced to slow down at the moment it needs to keep going. That is where the hour begins. 3 crews, 3 pressures, and no room to waste the day. For Parker, the push toward 10,000 ounces is built on control. His operation works best when the whole system holds together. The trucks need to keep cycling. The plant needs to keep washing. The cut needs to stay ahead. On paper, it sounds like a clean machine. In practice, it is a chain that is only as strong as its weakest part. One soft patch in the road can delay haul trucks. One problem in the plant can back up the dirt. One stretch of weaker ground can cut into the expected return. That is why a target like this carries tension, even when things look steady. The closer Parker gets, the less room he has for a bad day. He knows what the number means. People watching from the outside see a milestone. A miner sees hours, fuel, labor, wear, and risk. To break through a mark like this, he does not need one dramatic moment. He needs enough ordinary things to go right. That may be the hardest part. Gold mining often looks like a game of bold moves, but most of the season is decided by repeat effort. It is decided by whether one load follows the next without interruption. It is decided by whether the sluice boxes stay honest. It is decided by whether the plan survives contact with the ground. Parker's strength has always been pace. He can push hard, but he can also build a rhythm. In an episode like this, rhythm matters more than talk. Still, rhythm never means safety. The 10,000-ounce line can make a crew tighten up. Men start doing the math in their heads. Every cleanup feels loaded with extra meaning. If the result comes in strong, the whole camp feels it. If it comes in light, the silence says enough. That is why the tension around Parker is quiet, but real. He is not chasing fantasy. He is chasing something measurable and close. Yet close is not the same as certain. In mining, the last stretch can be the hardest stretch. The ground does not care how near a milestone may be. It gives what it gives, and a crew must take the answer as it comes. Tony's drive toward that same barrier carries a different feeling. With Tony, the story is never only about the number. It is also about stubbornness. He has spent too many seasons fighting the land, the machines, and the timing to step away from a target just because it is difficult. If the 10,000-ounce barrier is standing in front of him, then it becomes something to push against. That is the way his operation often feels. Not smooth, not polished, but determined. Every yard of dirt has to be forced into place through work. Every gain seems to come with more strain attached to it. What makes Tony's run interesting is the contrast with Parker. Both want the same result, but they seem to travel different roads toward it. Parker leans on structure and pace. Tony leans on endurance and will. One tries to keep the system balanced. The other seems ready to drag the whole system forward, if that is what the day demands. That contrast gives this episode its shape. The number may be shared, but the struggle is personal. Each man is carrying his own history into the same moment. Each man wants the right to say he got there through his own ground, his own crew, and his own way of mining. But like Parker, Tony is also trapped by the same truth. Numbers only move when the dirt pays. A strong effort means very little if the ground does not support it. That is why the tension in Tony's camp is not only about work rate. It is also about what the mine is willing to return. Crews can fix equipment. They can work longer. They can move faster. What they cannot do is command the gold to appear. So every update in Tony's run toward 10,000 ounces carries two layers. First, there is the visible layer. Machines moving, dirt feeding, people pushing. Under that is the silent layer. Is the ground rich enough? And is it rich enough now? That question becomes even sharper when the season has already taken pieces out of a crew. By this point, no one is fully fresh. Equipment has been worn by weeks of use. Bodies are carrying the season with them. Patience is shorter. Decisions feel heavier. And yet Tony still has to stay locked in. A number like this can tempt a miner to force the pace too hard. But forcing too much can create its own damage. Push beyond the margin and the mine will punish you back. So Tony's challenge is not only to reach the barrier, it is to reach it without letting the effort break the very system carrying him there. That balance is hard, and that is why the chase stays tense. While Parker and Tony are looking up at a major season mark, Rick is looking straight ahead at a more basic danger. Vegas Valley is running thin. That changes everything. When the pay dirt that feeds your plant begins to fade, each day starts to feel smaller. Not because the work is smaller, but because the room to recover gets smaller. A mine can survive a bad shift. It can survive a weak cleanup. It can survive a breakdown if the ground behind it is strong enough. But when the dirt itself is close to giving out, every delay reaches farther. It does not only steal hours, it steals options. That is why Rick's push to open the last chance cut carries a different kind of weight. He is not trying to hit a proud season number. He is trying to make sure there is still a path forward. New ground always sounds hopeful from a distance. Up close, it is hard work. Before a cut gives you anything, it asks for a lot. It asks for stripping. It asks for roads. It asks for clear access. It asks for time and fuel at the very moment both feel expensive. And all the while, the old ground is still ticking down. That is the pressure Rick is under. He cannot simply walk away from Vegas Valley and hope the new cut will sort itself out. He has to keep one part of the mine alive while another part is still being born. There is also a mental cost to that kind of move. A crew can handle hard work if the direction feels clear. What wears people down is uncertain work. When a cut is still being opened, the promise is there, but the answer is not. Men can move overburden all day and still not feel closer if they do not know exactly what the ground underneath will show. Rick has to ask his crew to keep trusting the process while the current source of pay dirt gets thinner. That is never easy. Hope matters in mining, but hope alone cannot fill a hopper. The last chance cut has to become more than an idea, and it has to do so fast. So the episode turns toward the labor of opening ground. This is where mining stops looking grand and starts looking real. New cuts are built with patience before they are rewarded with gold. The first steps are often the least exciting to watch and the most important to get right. Ground has to be peeled back. Space has to be made. Machines need room to move without losing time in every turn. If water is in the way, it must be managed. If the top layer is heavy, it must be cleared. If the access is poor, the whole system drags. Rick cannot rush these steps too carelessly, because a bad setup at the start will keep hurting later. At the same time, he does not have the luxury of treating the last chance cut like a long-term side project. He needs it now. That urgency changes the feel of every choice. A normal delay becomes something more serious. A machine sitting idle is no longer just frustrating. It starts to feel dangerous. Every bucket moved in the new cut is also a reminder that Vegas Valley is still being consumed load by load. This overlap gives Rick's part of the story its strongest tension. He is mining the present while digging for the future. If either side slips too far, the whole plan can narrow fast. What makes this more compelling is that opening new ground offers only small signs at first. A clean section, better access, dirt beginning to move more freely, the shape of a real cut finally starting to appear. These are not giant victories, but in a pressured week, they matter. They tell a crew that the work is starting to become something useful. Still, small signs are not the same as a full answer. The cut is not truly open until it can support production. That means Rick has to keep pushing through the stage where progress is visible, but still incomplete. That is a hard stage in any operation, because it tests belief without offering much reward yet. Across all three storylines, the ground begins to speak in small ways. A plant either settles into its work or starts to show strain. Dirt either moves with some ease or fights every trip. A cut either opens up or keeps resisting. These signs matter because they shape mood before the gold count does. A crew can tell when a day feels healthy. They can also tell when something is off, even before the full cost becomes clear. In Parker's world, that may mean watching for any weak link that could slow a strong push. In Tony's world, it may mean reading whether effort is being rewarded at the same rate it is being spent. In Rick's world, it means asking whether last chance is turning from a burden into an opportunity. This is where the episode finds its natural suspense. Nothing has to be overstated. Real mining creates enough tension on its own. A strong sign can change the mood for an hour. A small setback can pull it back again. One useful stretch of dirt can make the target feel close. One difficult section can make it feel farther away than ever. That rise and fall is the pulse of the story. Not every turn is dramatic, but together they keep the viewer leaning in. Because in a mine, momentum is always fragile. It can build slowly, and it can break quickly. For Parker, signs of progress matter because they support the belief that the 10,000-ounce mark is within reach. But that belief must survive the day. Every hour that runs clean helps. Every hour that slips adds pressure to the next. He does not need wild luck. He needs the operation to hold. That may sound simple, yet it is one of the hardest things to protect when a milestone sits so close. The same is true for Tony. The closer he gets, the more the target seems to test his patience. He can feel its weight, but feeling it does not move it. Work does. Dirt does. Gold does. Until those pieces line up, the barrier remains a barrier. For Rick, the signs are different, but just as important. He is not staring at one big season number. He is looking for proof that last chance can take over before Vegas Valley fades too far. Progress for him may come in pieces. A path opened, more ground exposed, better movement through the cut. These are practical victories. They do not make for loud celebration, but they can keep an operation alive. And that is what gives Rick's fight its quiet strength. He is not chasing a symbol. He is trying to secure tomorrow before today runs out. As the race tightens, the title of the episode begins to mean more than a number on a sheet. The gold ceiling is real because it marks a level both Parker and Tony want to break through. But it is also mental. Once a crew gets close to a barrier, the line can start to dominate every conversation, every decision, and every cleanup. Men do not need to say it out loud for it to shape the day. They know what is hanging there. They know what it would mean to finally move beyond it. They also know how frustrating it would be to come right up to the edge and stay there. That shared pressure draws the storylines together. Parker is pushing from one side. Tony is pushing from another. Rick, in his own way, is facing a ceiling too. His may not be measured in total ounces, but it is still a line that must be broken. He must get beyond dependence on fading ground and into something that can carry him forward. So, even though the three men are fighting different versions of the same season, this episode lets those versions reflect each other. Each one is trying to break through a limit. Each one is testing whether effort, planning, and timing can still beat resistance. This is where the pace of the hour works best. It moves from one camp to the next before any one moment settles too long. That matters, because comparison keeps interest alive. When Parker seems to gain ground, the question shifts to Tony. When Tony keeps pressing, the mind returns to Parker. And when both are measured against a gold barrier, Rick's race against time adds another kind of suspense. The episode never has to rely on noise. It relies on contrast. One crew is chasing a number through production. Another is fighting toward the same number through hard resistance. A third is trying to stop tomorrow from becoming a problem before night even falls. By the final stretch, what stands out most is how much mining depends on timing. Parker may have the structure, but structure only matters if the ground keeps giving. Tony may have the will, but will only matters if the operation can hold up under pressure. Rick may have a new cut to chase, but a new cut only matters if it opens before the old dirt runs dry. That is why the ending of an episode like this does not depend on a single surprise. Its power comes from the way all three paths tighten at once. The room for error shrinks. The margins look thinner. Every move begins to carry more weight. For Parker, the push toward 10,000 ounces becomes a test of discipline. Not big speeches, not dramatic gestures, just a demand to stay sharp until the work is done. For Tony, the same barrier becomes a test of endurance. Can he keep forcing the season forward long enough to crack the mark in front of him? For Rick, the question is more urgent and more practical. Can Last Chance go from plan to lifeline before Vegas Valley gives him no choice? Each answer matters for a different reason, but together they create the shape of the episode's closing pressure. And in that closing pressure, the truth of the season comes through. Gold mining is not only about what a crew finds. It is about when they find it, how they reach it, and what it costs to keep moving until they do. A strong result means more when it comes under strain. A new cut means more when it opens just in time. A milestone means more when it has been visible for long enough to feel almost personal. That is why the gold ceiling works as a title. It does not only describe a count, it describes the feeling of looking up at a limit and deciding to keep pushing anyway. By the end of the hour, the questions are still powerful because they do not belong only to one day. Parker's chase asks how far steady production can carry him before the season closes. Tony's drive asks whether persistence can turn pressure into a breakthrough. Rick's effort at Last Chance asks whether smart timing can save a crew from losing momentum at the worst moment. These are not small questions. They are season questions. The kind that decide what the next week of mining will look like, and what kind of finish each crew still has left in it. So the episode closes not with easy comfort, but with a clear sense of where the pressure now sits. Parker and Tony are both still fixed on a season mark that has become larger than a number. Rick is still pushing to make sure his next source of pay dirt is ready before the current one fades away. No one gets to relax. No one gets to step out of the race. If anything, the work ahead now looks more defined, and because it is more defined, it feels heavier too. That is the lasting effect of this chapter in Gold Rush Season 16. It shows that big goals and basic survival can exist side by side in the same week, under the same sky, in the same cold ground. One man may be reaching for a milestone. Another may be fighting the same line through a different method. A third may be trying to keep his whole operation from slowing down at the exact wrong time. But all of them are facing the same rule. The mind does not hand out progress because it is deserved. It only answers the work that reaches it. And that leaves the story in a strong place going forward. If Parker can hold his pace, the barrier may finally give way. If Tony can keep grinding without losing ground elsewhere, he still has a path to the same prize. If Rick can turn Last Chance into working ground before Vegas Valley runs dry, he may keep his season alive at the moment it matters most. Those are the questions now. Clean, simple, and heavy. In mining, that is often enough. Because in the end, the gold ceiling is never only above the ground. It is also inside the minds of the men trying to reach it. It is the line that says, "Not yet." It is the weight that asks for one more shift, one more haul road, one more cleanup, one more gamble on the next cut. Some barriers fall with one big moment. Others are worn down by work. In this episode, the work is still being done. The pressure is still building. And the answer, as always in Gold Rush, must come from the dirt.